Welcome to Wealthy Living Conversations. I'm Lisa, your host and founder of Wealthy Living. It is here that I connect with a variety of wonderful humans to have inspiring and insightful conversations to help you live a meaningful, connected and well life, both personally and professionally. So in today's episode, I have a very special guest. She's known as Romany Romany. She's a sassy, magnetic woman who truly understands the meaning of connection, spreading her magic wherever she goes. She's a world-renowned British magician, she's the winner of Las Vegas World Magic Awards and author of Spun Into Gold, a story of her secret life, a true story of hope. Now, I was really privileged to meet Romany and become friends with her earlier this year, where she successfully amazed about 200 women, poolside, might I say, with her dazzling burlesque style magic show, as well as delivering a truly inspirational keynote, sharing her inspiring, heartfelt story of hope, which had Liz Gilbert so moved that she joined her on stage. So I'm sure our conversation will go in multiple directions today, but in a nutshell, we'll talk about setting an intention, following your heart, and then listening to the whispers for instructions of how to get there. We'll include themes of persistence and trust and motivation, inspiration, assertiveness, boundaries and courage, as well as how to overcome those internal and external roadblocks. So welcome, beautiful woman, and I must say happy birthday for yesterday.
Thank you. 52 today.
Woo-hoo! Yeah, amazing. Certainly don't look it.
What time is it? It's 9 o'clock in the morning here.
Well, it's in the evening here, which I'm going to lose that natural light out of the window soon. So before we get going, so nice to have you here and speak to you, and all of from across the world. So much stuff going on in the world, and we were so lucky before the crazy hitness hit to have connected in the beautiful Fiji, and I was able to really share your magic.
I know. I mean, so what was it? 200 women roughly. We didn't know this was coming, did we? We had no idea. So we didn't know at the time. We knew we were really lucky to be there because it was fantastic, but we had no idea.
Absolutely.
And all the memories that we had, things like standing in the warm water as the sun went down, singing Amazing Grace all together. I'm getting chills just talking about it.
Amazing.
The connections has been my fuel and my comfort since.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We definitely weaved magic, or and you were definitely a part of that.
We all did. And all the connections that we've made that, I'm in England and I'm still in touch with, and these connections are more important than many of, I'm not saying my lifelong friends, if anyone are listening, but, very, very important because they were our tribe. It was women from our tribe that get it with the heart centered, and businesswomen and successful women, but who work from the heart.
Absolutely.
Who get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now you, as I said before, you delivered this incredible keynote that was so heartfelt. And like I said, Elizabeth Gilbert was our, wisdom keeper there. And she was so moved by your story that she actually joined you on stage. So I just thought it might be a really good opportunity for your story is so interesting and it is a story of hope. So maybe you can just share with the listeners today a little bit about your background and how you've come to be this world-renowned magician.
Yeah, crazy. So I'll squeeze it all down. So basically, I was a stage-struck child. I was watching all those MGM musicals, which forever, romance was never going to be the same, was it, as Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and all this. So a stage-struck child. My mother encouraged me to dream of being a dancer, and I went to all these lessons. And I wanted to be a ballerina or an actress or something. But basically, when it came to being 15 and being in a show, I stopped eating, as many 15. Well, I don't know how many 15s do, but I did. I got very thin, and then I started eating again. And I put on we have stone here. It's about £28 extra. So as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, I was a plump. I mean, I wasn't obese, say, but far too big to dance. Of course, I then read a magazine article about bulimia. I thought, what a great idea. It's not. And that sent me on my road of 3 decades of this eating disorder.
Wow.
However, I then went to university because there was no point trying to be a dancer or an actress because I was the wrong shape. And after university, I got a good, successful job on management trainee scheme. Very stressful, but I was dancing all night because I discovered salsa dancing. I was still bulimic. Of course, dancing all night, training all day to be thin enough to do this dancing. I was performing as well. My head blew up. And I think when you're not following your heart, your body sooner or later will tell you. So at the age of 26, I would say we didn't know it back then, but I had a breakdown. I ended up back at my parents, staring at the 4 walls going, and then I realized that I hadn't followed my heart. I knew that the only thing that would make me happy was being on stage. That was it. That was my life. But I followed my parents' kind advice to get a good job. I decided then and there that I would not follow anyone's advice ever again, ever, which I haven't. And when I have, it's sent me down the wrong path because you've got to follow your own advice because you know best. And I said, I'm going to be a performer no matter what. And at the time I said, I'm going to be a juggler. Can you imagine? I was a successful businesswoman and no, I'm going to be a juggler. And my parents were like, but I was angry. I was pissed off because all my dreams had shrunk to being sitting on the edge of my childhood bed going, I can't leave the house, I can't use the telephone, I can't speak to anyone, anxiety, bulimia, right? Very unhappy. And I was like, I'm going to be a juggler. And so, and it's funny because when you make a wish and make an intention that's really strong, then the rest of the universe falls into place. Because about 3 weeks later, after that decision, someone suggested I went to a magic evening class. I went to the magic evening class and went, oh, I'm going to be a magician. And that was the road to my, I was going to say my current life, my pre-COVID life. Yeah. But I always say in my talk about persistence that it doesn't happen overnight sometimes. Sometimes it does. But I was 26 then. And when I won the World Magic Awards in Las Vegas, I was 43. Which is 17 years of saying, I am a world star of magic. I am a world star of magic, even though I really wasn't. But I kept going. And also people ask, well, what took you so long? Well, I never got rid of the bulimia. And one of the reasons for that was that I'm 66, 67 kilos now. That's my natural body weight. It's fine. But it's not if you want to look really graceful on stage, like professional dancers, like professional actresses. And so I was always battling to bring down those 10 pounds. And what I found is the moment you put rules and calorie counts and restrictions on your eating, if the way you cope with life is an eating disorder, you're going to flip yourself back in, which I have found over and over again. When I've been healthy, like I am absolutely now, if I was to say, okay, I'm going to get back into my costume and start counting calories and steps and everything else, I'd probably flip myself back into that. So that was what took so long. But in the end, it worked. And as you know, when I was 50, I'm 52 yesterday. When I was 50, I just had this intuition to write a book about my life, about what it took to become a world star of magic. And a magician had committed suicide the week when I'd started writing it. He'd done a whole week of shows in Hollywood. And at the end of the week, he had hung himself in the dressing room. And he wasn't a friend of mine, but I knew him. And I was so hit by this, that performers are so good at putting out this smile and this pretense to the world, like Robin Williams, like so many of our performers. And inside they're dying. And I thought, okay, I'm 50, I'm pretty well now. If this book, as everyone says, can help the younger generation, people who are struggling in secret with this disease or related problems, then whatever the fallout is, when I tell my story, because up to then I only told 5 people. 5 people in the world knew that I was bulimic. Then I will do it. And it's interesting because I thought I'd lose business. I thought people wouldn't book me. I thought my friends wouldn't like me. And actually the reverse was true, that everyone was so kind. You know, they liked me much more now that I was definitely a flawed human being like everybody else. And as Brené Brown fans will know, that when you tell your story and bring it into the open, it has a huge healing effect. Because, and I didn't know that when I wrote it. I just thought I'm writing it for younger women, for anyone who's dealing with this. But actually, in the 2 years since I've written it and have it out in the world, I have got better and better and better until now. You know, I don't think you ever recover from an eating disorder personally. You're always in recovery. However, I'd say I'm like 80-90% recovered. Amazing. Which is fantastic. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the power of vulnerability, isn't it? Which is what Brené Brown really talks about, is that power of vulnerability. And it is the way to truly connect to both yourself and to others.
Yeah. And it's that me too, isn't it? You go, look, this is how I have coped with life. And what's interesting, what I learned when I put my true story out in the world, everything, and there was not, you know, like I call it Spun Into Gold, the secret life of a female magician. I really don't have any secrets left. And I don't even think about those secrets anymore. Sometimes you're so busy keeping those secrets. You've got so much shame around something. You put all this energy into that. And maybe that energy keeps you there, keeps you battling. And then you let it out. And I don't even think about this anymore, really. It's not a thing, is it, in my thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're holding on to secrets or you've got a shame about something, it must really draw so much energy that could be really put into so many better things and
absolutely,
you know, things that can actually get you on your way to achieving this goal.
It's really interesting though, isn't it? Because that's the thing that I didn't know before I did this. And then I read Brené Brown and I read Glennon Doyle Melton. And these female leaders who have led this thing of tell your story, because we've all got human stories.
Of course.
But before I read all this, I didn't know, and now I personally know by experience the amount of healing that says, this is my story. And then listening to everyone else say, me too. I've got countless letters and emails, and not only from women, from men too, because when I wrote it, I was ashamed. But then I sort of looked around at many of the men that I met on the cruise ships, and they would definitely be obese. Definitely, they were obese. And that also means they might not have an eating disorder, but it means they can't control their intake because they wouldn't be like that if they could.
That is an eating disorder. It's just...
Right?
Yeah.
And many of those men wrote to me and said, thank you so much, because I have also struggled all my life with this, and I have a deep shame that I can't control my eating. Yeah. Very interesting. I mean, most of them, not many people can control their eating or the drinking or whatever. That's
and it's addiction, isn't it? Because it's a food addiction, or there's addiction in other ways. So I think that when we share our story like you have, and really being open and honest and vulnerable, it's not always so much about the content of your particular story or it's what's underneath it and behind it. And if someone can just resonate with something being challenging that they have to overcome in order to achieve the direction of where they want to go, then they're going to resonate with the book. And it doesn't mean they have to have an eating disorder. They can have some other type of addiction, but something that's preventing them from moving in a direction that they really want to go. And so it's that story of hope and inspiration at its root, rather than whether it be about bulimia that's prevented you or anything else.
No, it's about not feeling enough. Like I always felt I was the wrong shape. It's not feeling good enough, clever enough. Who am I to be big?
And that's the root. Self-worth is really the root of that that core issue, which often prevents people from moving forward. It's like, are we good enough? Are we an imposter? Are we, how we compare ourselves to others, all of these different things. Who am I to be that? Exactly like you said before. So I think that there's always, when we have stories and we share stories of our own vulnerability that has a good ending like yours, really gives that message of hope and really helps so many people. So good on you for having the courage to really share that.
And we, and also this theme of persistence, which every time I get knocked back or whatever, I think my life's work now is not so much to be a magician, obviously, if ever that comes back, great. But it's more that in these times, we all need to be encouraged by stories of successful persistence. I need to be encouraged. And whenever I watched Ra Goddess on Marie Forleo last week.
Okay.
A really beautiful woman. And she encouraged me. I wrote to her on LinkedIn and said, thank you so much. She absolutely encouraged me. We need all these people that have kept going.
Yeah.
To tell us to keep going.
Well, it's stories of resilience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we can't give up. It's so easy to give up. But giving up doesn't make us happy.
Yeah. And at the same time, in saying that as well, it's also being connected and self-aware enough, connected to yourself and self-aware enough to know that changing of direction and not achieving your initial desires or goals is also not giving up. So just because you don't achieve your initial dream and you turn the corner and go for something else, that doesn't mean you've given up. You've just pivoted to it in a different direction.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, something really important as well, is for people really to remember that it's about to give self permission as well to change direction, and that we are allowed, that you haven't failed because you haven't achieved your initial goal.
Sure. And I really love, I'm a great fan of Abraham Hicks, and I love that they say, once you get there will be something else.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter actually. But also when you were speaking, I was thinking about how I love the magical universe. Yeah. Which in my vision is like, when you have a steampunk film, all the cogs and the wheels, there's this magical universe. And, you go there and the magical universe resolves around that. But then you go, no, I want to go over there. And it goes, okay. And it resolves around that. And as you're going forward, it just resolves into place. And it's really that thing about listening. So, for example, at the moment, I've never done art. I would say I'm artistic. I like colours and things, but I've never actually painted or done much. But at the moment, if I listened to my intuition, it's all about colour. I don't know why, but it is.
Yeah.
And so I've just bought, great fan of Tracy Verdugo, our wonderful artist who was in Fiji. I bought her course, haven't actually done it, I've watched it. I bought the paints. Because my intuition is colour, 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 colour. I bought paints to paint my furniture. I haven't quite got the courage yet to be a beginner, but I'm listening and I bought the paints. And this is what we have to do. We have to listen to see what direction we're meant to be going in.
Yeah.
And who knows, I might be a crap visual artist, but maybe because I've gone into the art shop, I will meet the person, the publisher there or whatever, who will spring my book into millions. Who knows? But you have to follow the whispers. That's what's really important.
Absolutely. And I think it's also being open-minded enough that, for example, take an example of painting, that painting isn't necessarily always about producing a beautiful artwork. Painting
or selling art,
the process that you go on and what you discover about yourself while you're doing that. So that dance between holding on and letting go, and all the different things that come with the painting process, the choosing, the decision making, the clarity, the being able to listen to which color to pick up, the self-trust to just go for it, the imperfection to not make the mistakes and to be okay with a mistake and to know that you can paint over that bit, and all of those things that come with your growth. It doesn't really matter always about the outcome of that piece. And that's just with painting, but that's everything. When you whisper, you listen to the whispers, it might not be the traditional original thought that you think that particular task will give you. It might be a whole lot of other hidden growth elements that you gain through doing those, following those parts.
It's true. And I really love how that all works. So, so you heard my story about how in the end I ended up in Fiji with Liz Gilbert. And I love the fact that in a story, you have the idea and the intention and you think, okay, and then you have the courage to do it. And then in my case, it failed. It seemed to fail. But actually, it was just a wonderful twist of the story because it seemed to fail and I seemed to give up. And then the universe came back a year later and went, here's another chance. Yeah. I was like, okay. And that made it into a wonderful story, persistence, which might be the very story that gets someone else back on their feet.
Yeah.
And it gave me the gift.
Absolutely. So when you talk about persistence, because something that I find that you do have a lot of is obviously persistence and courage to follow your dreams. What is it that you think, what is the key to being persistence for you? Like, do you have little tools or rituals or routines, or what do you do to actually keep like that grit and that persistence and that determination? Is it something that's happened in the past that you're not willing to go back to? Is it like, what is it you think that is really helpful that might help some other people?
Well, I remember some people have referred to me a couple of times as you're like a terrier with a stick, i.e. like the terrier won't give up the stick. Now,
relentless.
Right. And when you say about persistence, I sort of think of it more of a doggedness, this word dogged. And I love dogs, I'm waiting for my next dog, but it's this doggedness. I'm not going to give up. And the more you tell me that I can't is a stubbornness. And one of my personal motto is I can and I will, watch me. And I really love so for example, when lockdown came and I'd done nothing for 6 months because I thought the world was going to come back and shows would come back, and then they didn't. And I was like, what am I going to do now? And I was like, and again, I heard the whisper of Spun Into Gold out to 1 million readers. And I was like, that's an interesting magic trick. If I could make that work, because 1 million readers is quite a lot. If I could make that work, then that would really encourage people to have an amazing dream, a dream off the wall, and go for it, just using the techniques. But at the moment, last week, I felt like giving up because I'd worked very hard for 2 weeks and I wasn't really seeing any results. You might say, I worked very hard for 2 months. And you might say, 2 months, Romany, there's been authors like J.K. Rowling who took it to, I don't know how many editors did she take it to, 150 or something. So this week, I had a day off for my birthday. I'm back on the bus. How? Because I'm listening again. I think this thing about listening, and this idea that the universe has, and you're part of the universe, has the power. Of course, everything is possible because it just is. There's nothing you can dream of that if you have the power to dream of it, if you have the imagination to dream of it, the universe has the power to make it come true, because this is a magical universe. It just is if you look around. So what do? I think I'm stepping back from my power because I put all this effort into all the social media, everything I could do. I was on the BBC and nothing really came of it. And I'm like, okay, step back and let the magical universe do the work. And all my life when I've done that, then the magical universe surprises me. But you have to have the patience and the trust to go over to you. And if you're a God person, over to you. If you're an angels person, over to you. If you're a scientific person, then what I focus on, I get more of. So for example, if I imagine in my head, I can see this young woman reading my book who's desperate. Or I imagine someone that's just going to get a bit of an oomph from it or whatever. I imagine that whatever gold they need, they're going to get. And in my head, it's like this golden cloud, which is there because when I wrote the book, every morning I got up and I meditated and I prayed that this gold would fall into people's hearts or what they need. So it's there in a big cloud. It's just a matter of it being the right time to fall on the right person. This is out of my control. All I need to do is to allow it and not get caught up on how many books sold this week, because that's like my ego, absolutely my ego. It's got nothing to do with me. So what do I need to do? I need to follow my joy.
Yeah.
I've just reminded myself of that because I was like, what do I need to do? It's basic. Always. How you allow whatever it is you want to fall into place. Follow your joy, which means what would be good today? Would it be good to put on some music and dance around your living room? Would it be good to go for a walk? Would it be good to light some candles? Would it be good to play with your children or your dog? Would it be good to paint your furniture blue? What would be good? And follow that and follow that and follow that. And that in my life is how everything's fallen into place.
It's interesting.
And if I'm tight and think I need to do this, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And there's so much truth in that, but there's a few questions that I want to bring up around it, or a few just inquiries. So I 100% agree that the importance of really and following your joy and the ripple effect that has, because it changes our vibration, it changes the way we feel. It's much harder to think negative thoughts when you're in your joy. The way that you then communicate with people, the way that you then put things out is a different vibration than when you're not feeling joy. So in that respect, I 100% am on board with following your joy and the ripple effect that has for creating positive outcomes. Where I'm wondering is, do you think that you can just follow your joy, like do things that feel good?
Yeah, no.
And magically,
no,
the results happen. Because ultimately, I mean, when you're feeling more joyful, you've still, in my mind, and challenge it if I'd like to hear the challenge of it. But in my mind, it's like, yeah, that's awesome. And it means that when I then take inspired action, it's going to be much more joy based, and therefore the outcome's going to be more beneficial or reflect more of what I desire. But if I don't take any inspired action and I just sit and do the joyful things, yes, regardless of the outcome, I'm still going to feel okay because I'm in a joyed space. I might not
dancing around your living room. Yeah.
You know, like I might be okay if I don't achieve my goal because I'm feeling good, but I'm still not going to achieve the goal if I don't take the inspired action.
Yes, exactly. So, and I sort of knew this in the past, but I'd sort of forgotten it because we've got this magical thinking. So I set a goal and I have this wonderful intention, and I have a marvelous manifestation notebook, and I do all the Abraham Hicks exercises. I write down fun and easy. I do my wheels. But if you don't walk towards it and take action, you're going to be there with your vision board still.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of great teachers. Mike Dooley talks about the GPS. If you've got your vision board in your car, but if you don't, and you know where you want to go and on your GPS, but if you don't start your engine and actually move, your GPS can't say wrong way, do a U-turn, turn right, turn left.
Yeah,
exactly. And but this is how it happens. So for example, I was really into magical thinking in the 6 months after COVID, wasn't doing anything. But then, way back when I was writing the book, I was at the end And Louise Hay, the wonderful Louise Hay, she'd passed. And I went into the garden and spoke to her in my head and said, please help me with this book, because she's a publisher and she publishes all these personal development books. I said, please help me. And a week later, my friend gave me the Hay House online writing course, which I did. So, now, in the time when I didn't know about Magical Action, I don't know how, but Nancy Levin, who was the events organisation of Hay House and now is a great coach, somehow popped into my inbox. I can't remember how, some connection. I joined her Facebook group and she gave this teaching about magical thinking versus action. Mm-hmm. And I was like, absolutely, you have to take action. And that's when I said, it was the 1st of September, and I said, okay, I have this magical thought of spinning to 1 million readers. I'm going to commit to action every day, and I'm going to blog about it.
Yeah.
And that's when I started doing my action every day. And whether or not it has any meaning, what was interesting, after about a month of action every day, my Facebook page engagement was up 2,000%. And, I don't know whether that's good or whatever, but everyday action. The BBC rang me to go onto their flagship program out of the blue. Lots of people asked me to be on their podcast. Like, I went from not having any action to daily action. And I started paying my friend to do the marketing for me and things like that. Daily action. I sat my butt in the chair and did daily action. And then noticed how things spun much more quickly. I did this action and the universe did that action. And I love the phrase that when you walk towards the universe runs towards you with open arms.
Yeah.
But and this is a much more amplified action. You don't just have to do what you can, but do something towards your vision.
Yeah. And something that feels aligned and feels joyful. And so that's where I think it marries up. And I mean, that goes back to, you sort of mentioned that you'd taken all those actions and you weren't sure whether they have or haven't paid off. And so you've sort of taken a little bit of a back step and just come back to your joy, which is incredible decision when it comes to self-care, because you don't want to do what you did in the past and burn out and then have negative feelings towards what you're doing. But that just reminds me of, trusting what you said earlier, and that's that you're not an overnight success. So,
really not.
So, you know what I mean? Which nobody, very, 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 very few people are. So you look at artists that are famous, or you look at, even some really high profile coaches, and they can deliver stuff and give you half an hour and charge a fortune. But what they'll tell you, and same with an artist that might, I think Picasso even did a portrait of someone in 30 seconds, and he said, that's $30,000. And they go, what? And same with these coaches that are short term, and then, but it took me 30 years to be able to do it in 30 seconds, or it took me 10 years of learning to be able to deliver that amount of coaching in 30 minutes.
Exactly.
So you're not.
And how can I deliver an effective, authentic, powerful keynote on the magical power of persistence if I was an overnight success? Because I wouldn't know anything about it. How would I know about how to keep going when you have no results?
That's right.
So I love the fact that the universe is teaching me this again now.
Yeah, exactly. So for sustainable success, you need all the lessons along the way, and they're all reminders, and all this incredible work that you've been doing to share this incredibly amazing book of yours is not wasted, because it is out there in the ether, on the interwebs, and at some point in time, even if it's in 3 months' time, someone might come across it.
Exactly.
And
even now, I think about 2,000 people have read it, and I've got hundreds and hundreds of letters back. I know now already it's really helped. 2 people have left their marriages. So how can I see this? So this was the thing. So I don't really like Twitter really, but I was on Twitter, and this guy posts all the time really positive memes. I don't know. I got this guy off Twitter and I just sent him this message saying, I have this weird feeling that you need to read my book and I will pay for you. I will buy it for you on Amazon. Do you read? I mean, how crazy is that? Out of the blue, this one guy. And he went, yeah, I like reading. And so I bought him a voucher, which didn't transmit to Canada where he was. And so it didn't really work. And then I ended up PayPaling him the money to buy the book. Because I didn't want him to think that I was selling him the book. I wasn't selling. I just had this feeling he needed to read it. So he said, thank you. And he read it. And he said, I'm now going to change my life. And I was like, oh, how? And he was a bit of a typical guy. He didn't elaborate. And then, but I had this feeling that there's something was not right in his marriage or something. And about a couple of months later, he wrote back and said, thank you so much. I'm so much happier now. And I went, and he went, yeah, I left my marriage. And I was like, wow.
Oops.
And then and another girl I met, I won't actually say who, but was also in a terrible marriage, very unhappy. And she said to me, was it hard leaving your marriage? I was like, did you not read that chapter? It was heartbreaking. It was awful. But it worked out really well. And he's happy. I'm happy. We're all happy. She went, uh-huh. And I was like, oh dear. And about a month later, but she's super happy now. Hooray. I'm not saying everyone will leave their marriages, just 2 people.
Or they'll do, leave their jobs that they're not happy at or other things.
Yeah, because we do need to look at our lives. And if we are really unhappy because we are in a bad marriage or a bad job or something, maybe you haven't got the courage to leave because you don't know how you're going to pay your bills, or will you always be lonely? But one thing is certain, if you stay there, you're going to be unhappy. And if you leave, again, if the circumstances are right, what I'm saying is the universe has enormous potential to fulfill our need for happiness.
Yeah.
But we need to take action.
Yes. So, wow. So a lot of it, I think, is, just really having a lot of self-trust and also trust in others and trust in the world around us, had that be the universe or, the magic feelings or whatever is out there. But yeah, I think a lot of it becomes trust, but it's really, you've got to really be, I think, connected to yourself to be able to hear those whispers, to then trust yourself to listen to them, and then have the courage to assert yourself in ways to achieve whatever it is that you want to actually achieve.
Can I just tell a little story which really illustrates this? So it's in Fiji. So we're all in Fiji, and I've travelled all the way from England to Fiji because my mission is to give my book to Liz Gilbert. A long story, but I'm in Fiji. Wonderful Liesl, who's the organizer. Of course, she's running around like, she's got so much work to do. And I realized that how am I actually physically going to get my book into Liz's hands, because everyone's so busy. Liz is a huge star. And that day I'm thinking, I've come all this way. I can't see how this is going to work. And when I walked the first day in the conference, there was this big hub of women. The noise was tremendous. And I was like, oh, and all my anxiety was up. And I met another woman, it was Bonnie Gillespie, who's a fabulous trainer of actors and that. And she was also standing a bit back. And I went over to her and went, oh. She was like, yeah, there's a lot of energy there. And so we met and we had a chat. She's also an Abraham Hicks fan. So the day when I was panicking really about how was I ever going to get my book to Liz, or even get her to come to my keynote, which was really essential for the keynote because it was about Liz, she said, what would Abraham Hicks teach? And I was like, back off and go and do something in your joy. Go and think of something you'd like to do. And I was like, back off, don't worry about it, let it go, back off. And I was like, yeah. And I thought, right, what do I want to do now? Everyone was at workshops. I was like, I'd like to go paddle boarding. The water is warm, the sun's out. Mm-hmm. What I really want to do now is paddle boarding. Right. Free paddle boards, get my bikini. There I am, paddle boarding. No one is around. Everyone's at workshops. And I see this woman swim along, jump onto the inflatable that was there, run up, slide down. She looks really fit. And I enjoy that. And she dives into the water. And so I paddleboard over serenely. And I went, wow, you look like a gladiator off that show in America. And she went, yeah, that's fun, isn't it? And we were having a chat, and I realized that she's Liz's agent, Miriam.
Yes.
And then I'm like, oh, because she's exactly the person I need to ask her if she can get Liz to come to my keynote. But I'm English and I don't like asking for anything because we're very polite. And now I'm in exactly the right situation because she's there, I'm there. The universe has put this thing together.
Yeah.
He even says, are you Romany the magician? Because she's read the program. I went, yeah, I don't know how she recognized me in my bikini. I don't know. I was like, yeah. And now the moment is there. I'm like, oh, and that's my point. You've got to have the courage to take that opportunity. I did not want to bother this poor woman who's just having a swim. And I said, do you know why I'm here? And she's like, no. And so I launched into my story. And so when I tell the story, she's very factual and businesslike. And she's like, oh, so you need Liz to come to your keynote, right? And your show. I was like, yes. She's like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And off she swims. And I'm on my paddleboard going, but all my life, that's how it works. You back off, let go of your ego wanting whatever it is you want. Think of something you'd like to do and allow the universe but when the universe puts the jigsaw together, then take the opportunity. Very important.
Yeah.
Even when you don't want to.
Allowing, trusting, and then flowing with a bit of action.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that story. And I love, how it all ended up for you at Fiji. Yeah. And, it was incredible. The atmosphere for your keynote was incredible. And when she came on the stage and,
it's funny because that was my first keynote really. And I was absolutely scared, of course, but I hadn't really realized. So we did the show the night before. And again, how quick weird is this? So, we're in this venue and I'm setting up on this stage, and this stage is pants. It's a very small stage. It's inside. It's got no lighting. It's really not very nice at all. But what are you going to do? That was what I had. Until a woman walked past, Kylie, and she looked at it and went, can I say something? I went, yeah. She said, it doesn't look very nice. I'm like, I know. She said, why don't you do it outside by the beautiful pool? And I was like, because I need tech. I need lighting and sound. And she's like, well, they probably can do that. I was like, And even though that was 5:00 and the show's at 9, we did it and it all worked. And then we had this beautiful show with women in the pool and the backdrop of the ocean. And again, the help I got there was from Kylie that, I didn't really have the nous to go by the pool, but an angel came along and suggested it and more angels put it into practice and it all fell into being. But there's this enormous amount of help out there.
And I think the lesson in that really for a lot of people that they could really bring on board for a lot of areas of their life is to allow rather than resist. So that offer came to you, but you had two choices. One, you could bet you put the stubborn hat on and go, no. But the plan was to always have it here. And if we don't have it here, it's just going to be a mess. And so it's too late to change it. And you could have just been really persistent in that way and then missed the opportunity of how wonderful it was to have us all in the pool, around the pool. And you yourself, like you can put it all on Kylie of how wonderful she was, which I'm sure she was, but it was you who decided, who had the control, who with that control you were either going to stick to your original plan or you were going to have the agility to be able to change direction because you saw a different opportunity and you felt trusting of the support you were going to have to make that happen.
Yeah. And then it became this amazing adventure. We had all the women, and then we had all the Fijian staff standing at the back and around who'd never seen a magic show before.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, that was my last show. That was my last show in February. Crazy. So what a great show to go out.
And the world's gone crazy since. So what's your vision now?
So I had to, when it all happened, I literally got back from Fiji, and then it hit. So I had to move house. So I had a theatre in my house, and I had a big house in Brighton, and suddenly there's no work and no income, and the government didn't give me any income. So I had to move to a little cottage, which is so beautiful. I've now called it the Magic Cottage. It's a 19th century cottage in the Lake District, which is this area with mountains and lakes and countryside and lots of sheep. So if I look out my window, I can see the sheep and the sea in this tiny village. I don't know anyone here apart from my husband, who lives in the Buddhist centre. And I have absolute free time. Absolute. I haven't got any kids. And since March, well, I did gardening for the Buddhists for 3 months because I got locked in the monastery. That's another story. So since then, I've had free time. Now, I feel a little bit, not guilty, but a little bit, because for about 10 years, in my 30s, I was always into manifesting. And I think that I prayed and manifested this time because in my 30s, I didn't have enough time. And all I wanted was time to create and to make costumes and to do everything I needed to do. And my experience is whenever you wish for something, you usually get it, but there's a time delay. And I think I've got exactly what I wish for. Now, of course, I'm like floundering in a way because my whole world has been taken away, my community and my income, and I love my showbiz life, and I was traveling and working on cruise. Now I'm in this beautiful little cottage. What am I going to do? So in September, after really floundering, I listened, and my intuition was Spun Into Gold, out to 1 million readers. Now, it doesn't say sell 1 million books, as my marketing lady keeps reminding me. She says, I hear you. You're not saying sell 1 million books. You're saying spin it out to 1 million readers. So I'm going with that. I'm not being ego, like it has to sell or whatever. It's not about the money. Now, how do you do that? By podcasting and everything else. So now what's happening is now I'm speaking to many, many people. And that seems to be the way it's going. And as a result of me speaking, they're like, oh, I want to read your story. Fine. So I have a vision. So when I wrote the book, I was so inspired by Oprah's Super Soul Sunday. You know, she has these speakers that speak to a really large audience. So in my head, when I'm walking, which I walk every day for an hour, I can see this vision of hopefully when things come back together, and I'm walking into this auditorium with mainly a wonderful thousands of women in my costume. And then I get up onto the stage and I might do a magic trick or something, but then I take the costume off and tell my story. And that's my vision, which doesn't go away. So I think I'm working towards that vision. I'm getting my speech ready. I'm getting my website ready. I'm getting ready and letting go.
Yes. And maybe this is the beginning, because I want to be the Oprah.
Oh, you can be the Oprah. Yeah.
My dream is to be the Oprah.
Right. I don't want to be Oprah. I don't want to have to organize anything. I just want to be the guest, the speaker. So you can do that, and I'll just show up and
I want to be the host and you can be the speaker.
Great. Isn't it fabulous? Isn't it wonderful how we've all got things? I do not want to be the host. I don't want to be the host at all. Great. I have no desire to be the host. None. You want to be the host? Fantastic. Right.
Brilliant. Well, darling.
And I love this working together with wonderful people. That's what I love. So let's, we've all got the talent to do it. It's just a matter of just getting it together.
Yeah. Just open the borders. let us act with each other.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, it was so wonderful speaking to you again and connecting. It's just been so long, and you've got such a beautiful, incredible, inspiring story. And I'll put the details of your book in the show notes, because I think that it is an incredible book for people to read. And whether you've had an eating disorder, you'll really connect with it. But if you haven't, and you've just had something that's roadblocked you from moving forward to your goals, you'll really enjoy this read. And it's
an audio book as well. So if you like listening to audiobooks, it took a year to record it. It's so funny. And now people are listening to it.
Have you personally recorded it? Like,
Yeah, and edited it. Yeah, it took me a year. Yeah, it's got a lot of love in that audiobook.
Perfect. Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful chatting with you again. And
I wish the world wasn't so big. We used to travel all the time, didn't we? And now we're not allowed, but at least we can with Zoom. So
well, what if I put out an intention out there? I'm going to be 47 at the end of this year. What if I put out the intention that for my 50th, that you will come to Australia and do a magic show?
Yeah. And exactly.
It's out there in the universe.
Right.
According to you, if you put something out in the universe, magically it's going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've spoken to the right person.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. My props will be lighter, because the thing is, I used to travel around the world with really heavy props all the time, and I don't want to do that anymore. So I think I need a lighter show this time. Perfect. But, that's all possible. Yeah.
Yay.
Someone to carry my bags. That would be easier.
Just get that to happen.
Right.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much. It's lovely to see you.
Pleasure. Yeah. So if you have listened today and you'd like to know more, just look at the show notes. Or Romany, what's your main...
Easy. So I actually have zhuzhed up my website. So my website is romanymagic.com. And if you want to follow my progress towards 1 million readers, I've got a blog, which was every day and now is about 3 times a week, which obviously is romanymagic.com blog. But if you go on the site, you'll see everything. And also what I'm doing, I think this week is, or my friend is, because I'm rubbish, is editing some of that video so you can actually see Liz running onto the stage and giving me a big hug and seeing the final thing to my story.
Oh, brilliant. I was wondering before I spoke to you now whether there was a video of that, because that
just about on people's phones, because the camera didn't get switched on, so just about I've got it. Oof.
Oh, brilliant. It was so good. So anyway, if you want any information, just follow Romany, check out her blog. She's a great writer. She's great storyteller. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends and consider subscribing to the Wealthy Living podcast on iTunes and also on YouTube. To find out a little bit more about my services, you can visit my website at wealthyliving, WELLTHY living.com.au, or connect with me on any of my social media channels. So until next time, remember, connection is medicine.